In 2023, Justin Welsh, a solopreneur, generated over $5 million, not by building a massive company or raising VC, but by turning a single skill, his ability to distill complex business ideas into clear, actionable content, into an empire. Think about that for a second. $5 million. From one skill. He's not an outlier. We see this pattern everywhere, from someone who's incredible at crafting engaging ad copy scaling an agency, to a top-tier Excel wizard building a lucrative course. The secret isn't learning more skills. It's learning how to leverage the one you're already great at into multiple income streams, building a personal moat in 2026. This isn't about some passive income fantasy or a get-rich-quick scheme. It's about building a robust, diversified business around what you already do well. We're going to break down exactly how you find that core skill, validate its market value, and then strategically multiply its impact, turning it into a powerful, profitable engine. A few years ago, the average tenure for a Fortune 500 CEO was around 5 years. Today, it's closer to 3. And if you look at the S&P 500, roughly 40% of companies from a decade ago are no longer on the index. The landscape is shifting under our feet at an unprecedented pace. It's a world where skills that were foundational just a few years ago are now either automated or commoditized. We're seeing companies like NVIDIA, led by CEO Jensen Huang, pivot from graphics cards to AI infrastructure, essentially inventing new markets as they go. What does this mean for us, as individuals trying to build enduring value in our careers, in our businesses, or simply in our ability to adapt? It means that relying on a single, static skill set is increasingly a recipe for obsolescence. Think of Blockbuster ignoring Netflix, or Borders Books dismissing Amazon. The writing was on the wall, but the ability to evolve a core competency into something new, something more, simply wasn't there. Today, we're going to dive into how some of the smartest operators I follow, from founders like Brian Chesky at Airbnb to investors like Chamath Palihapitiya, are not just surviving this shift, but thriving. They're taking a foundational skill, something they're genuinely great at, and systematically expanding its impact, its value, and its reach. We'll explore how they identify adjacent opportunities, how they build new capabilities on top of existing ones, and crucially, how they avoid getting stuck in a rut. This isn't about chasing every shiny new object. It's about strategic growth. We'll start with the principle of vertical integration, not in the traditional sense of owning your supply chain, but in building layers of expertise. We're constantly told to diversify, to be a jack of all trades. But what if that's exactly the wrong advice? The myth of many skills suggests that a diverse skill set is always better. But if you look at the really successful players, it's often the opposite. Think about Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's longtime business partner at Berkshire Hathaway. He often spoke about worldly wisdom, but his core genius, and the engine of Berkshire's success, was always rooted in an almost obsessive mastery of value investing principles. He didn't build out a dozen new skills. He applied that singular, deep understanding across various contexts. Many people dismiss their single skill as just a hobby or something insufficient for a career. That's a limiting belief holding them back from recognizing its true potential. We're not talking about adding skills in the traditional sense. The goal isn't to accumulate. It's to strategically multiply and reframe the skill you already possess. It's shifting from an additive mindset, I need to learn X, Y, and Z, to a multiplicative one. How can I apply my existing skill, A, in a way that generates 10x the value? True value in today's market often comes from depth and unique application, not breadth. It's how you stand out. Take someone like David Perel, founder of Perel Marketing. His skill isn't marketing everything. It's an intense focus on curation and synthesis, finding obscure historical analogies and applying them to modern business challenges. He's built a significant following and a business from this singular, deep expertise. You don't need to learn new skills. You need to leverage what you have in novel ways to create exponential growth. This is the first step in what I call the mastery multiplier. Instead, his true power came from a deep, almost obsessive focus on a few core principles of value investing. That mastery, that depth, made him indispensable. This brings us to phase 1. Deep dive in Nuance, the mastery multiplier. In 2018, Dr. K. Anders Ericsson, a Swedish psychologist and researcher who popularized the 10,000-hour rule, published Peak Secrets from the New Science of Expertise. His work, and later revisions, emphasize that it's not just the hours, but deliberate practice, continually pushing past your comfort zone, that creates mastery. For us, this means taking that one skill, the one you're already good at, and digging far deeper than anyone else. Let's say your skill is writing. Most people stop there. But a deep dive means understanding the specific subcategories and nuances that others overlook. Instead of just writing, you become the go-to expert for long-form SEO blog writing for B2B SaaS companies targeting enterprise clients. You understand conversion funnels, keyword difficulty metrics, and the specific jargon of, say, cloud infrastructure. Or maybe you master script writing for educational YouTube channels focused on personal finance, knowing the pacing, visual cues, and psychological triggers that keep viewers engaged for 10 minutes, not 10 seconds. This isn't about collecting certificates. It's about continuous learning and experimentation within that specific niche. It's about reading the quarterly reports of the companies you write for, understanding their competitive landscape, and seeing how your words directly impact their bottom line. That depth creates a unique selling proposition. It makes you indispensable because you possess insights and abilities that others in your broader field simply don't. Once you've achieved that level of mastery in a specific domain, the next step isn't to abandon it for a new skill. It's to broaden your horizon and apply your refined skill to new arenas. Instead, his true power came from a deep, almost obsessive focus on a few core principles of value investing. That mastery, that depth, made him indispensable. This brings us to phase 1. Deep dive in Nuance, the mastery multiplier. In 2018, Dr. K. Anders Ericsson, a Swedish psychologist and researcher who popularized the 10,000-hour rule, published Peak Secrets from the New Science of Expertise. Once you've achieved that deep mastery, the next step, phase 2, is to broaden your horizon. This means applying your existing skill to completely new arenas. This isn't about learning a new skill. It's about solving new problems with your existing solution. Take a graphic designer. Traditionally, they might focus on branding and logos for local businesses. But what if that same designer pivoted to designing user interfaces for fintech startups or crafted educational infographics for nonprofits? The core skill, visual communication, remains the same, but the target audience, the specific problems, and the market value proposition change dramatically. Think about what legendary venture capitalist Mark Andreessen often says. Software is eating the world. He's talking about how core technologies, once refined, can be applied to fundamentally disrupt industries far beyond their original intent. For our designer, that might mean identifying pain points in, say, the increasingly complex world of ESG reporting. Small to mid-sized companies are mandated to produce these reports, yet struggle to present the data clearly. Our designer's ability to simplify complex information visually becomes incredibly valuable here. You're not acquiring new core competencies. You're just repositioning your skills' value. You can do this through focused market research, identifying industries or demographics currently underserved by your specific expertise. What this teaches us is that immense new opportunities often lie not in acquiring a new skill, but in applying your mastered skill to an entirely new problem set. This naturally leads us to phase 3. The synergy effect. Complement your skill strategically. This brings us to phase 3. The synergy effect. Complement your skill strategically. This isn't about becoming a generalist. It's about pairing your deep mastery with another existing skill, even a minor or overlooked one, to create a powerful, niche offering. Think about a photographer. Historically, their value was just delivering great images. But a photographer today who also understands basic social media marketing can shift their offering entirely. They can move beyond just standard photo shoots to providing content creation packages optimized for Instagram engagement. Suddenly, they're not just a supplier, they're a strategic partner, solving a bigger problem for their client. Consider how new tools and technologies, specifically AI, can supercharge this. You don't need to become an AI engineer. A writer, for instance, can leverage large language models for brainstorming, outlining, or even first drafts, significantly increasing their output and efficiency without ever having to master Python or neural networks. This strategic combination of skills allows you to identify what we call adjacent skills. When paired, these create a more holistic, valuable service, positioning you as a one-stop shop for a specific problem. It's about serving a more specific clientele with a higher value proposition, distinguishing you from the generalists who are still just selling single services. This synergy is how you move from being just good at one thing to being uniquely valuable in a specific market. This leads us directly to Phase 4. Productize your potential, turn skill into profit. This brings us to Phase 4. Productize your potential, turn skill into profit. The most striking example here is probably how much easier it is to monetize niche expertise now. Think about Alex Hormozi, co-founder of Acquisition.com. He built a multi-million-dollar empire not just through his gym launch and Prestige Labs businesses, but by productizing his knowledge of marketing and sales. He didn't just give advice. He packaged it into courses, books like 100M Offers, and a massive content library, reaching millions. This phase is about transforming your refined, strategically paired skill into something tangible you can sell. This could mean creating digital products like premium courses on a platform like Teachable or templates and tools on Gumroad. Imagine that skilled photographer from Phase 3 who also understands basic real estate law. They could create a niche course on legal pitfalls for real estate photographers, or even a template pack for ironclad usage rights agreements. It's about effective packaging. Clearly define your offering. What problem does it solve? How is it priced? Consider the success of companies like ConvertKit, founded by Nathan Barry, which started with him selling ebooks and courses before evolving into an email marketing platform. His early success was rooted in productizing his design and marketing expertise. You're building an asset, not just trading time for money. Leveraging platforms like YouTube for content distribution and Fiverr Pro for specialized consulting allows you to reach a global audience with minimal overhead. The final step is to launch, test, and iterate. Start with a minimum viable product, gather feedback from early adopters, and refine. This isn't a one and done. It's a continuous loop of improvement, maximizing both profit and your impact. Ultimately, what these phases, deep dive, broaden, synergize, and productize, teach us is that the real wealth in 2026 isn't in accumulating 100 surface-level skills, but in a relentless commitment to one. It's about finding that singular, valuable expertise, digging deeper than anyone else, and then strategically applying it, not widely, but with focused intent to compound its impact. This isn't about becoming a jack of all trades. It's about becoming a master and then understanding how that mastery can be leveraged in an increasingly interconnected digital economy. You don't need to learn new skills endlessly. You need to unlock the value in the skills you already possess. Have you ever seen someone absolutely dominate a niche because they went deep on one specific skill, then found a clever way to productize it? Drop their story, or your own, in the comments below. If you're interested in more breakdowns of how operators are building real value, hit that subscribe button. And if you're trying to figure out how to scale a small team without losing that deep expertise, you should watch my breakdown of how GitHub scaled its engineering team in the early days. It's exactly the next thing you should watch.